All right.
I left that in hard contact. I'm leaving that in now.
Welcome to the Nerds Cantos.
This guy.
Nolan doing his conquest impression for everybody here. That was wonderful, Nolan. Thank you.
Yeah.
We're
Took a lot out of me.
listen. You guys saw the title. We're talking about, and this one, Invincible's kind of popular, so I think people might watch this one. You know what I'm saying, guys? And so I think maybe we should do a little. I don't even know what I was gonna say. I don't know. This is the Nerds Cantos. It's like a book club podcast. Welcome. You're caught up. I'm Xander. There's Nolan's over there. Yeah. Stewie's over there. I say over there. We're not in the same room. I'm looking at a Discord image, and that's what I pointed at when I said it. So, you know how it is. But we all read the Invincible comic by Robert Kirkman, Corey Walker, and Ryan Otley, with a colorist I don't know the name of. They will be on screen. The colors, I think, are very good in this. And an inker. I don't know their names, though. We're going to talk about it. That's what we're here to do. So, we said we were going to talk about the differences between the show and the book. And I think a good way to start with that is, now, obviously, the show's not done, but do you guys like the book more, or do you like the show more?
I mean, if the
I like early show Mark a lot more. Because early bookmark, kind of an idiot. Kind of a massive moron a little bit.
Whoa, now I don't know if I agree with that take. I don't think Mark's a moron.
I'm being a little hyperbolic. Yeah. He's not like a massive moron, but he's a little dumber than the show of it.
I don't know if dumb. I think he's more naive, you know.
Yes.
But I think that has to do.
What's a better word?
I think that has to do with the fact that in the show, the Guardians die right away.
Yeah, they do.
Whereas in the book, you get the thing with early.
I think it's like five or so chapters.
I was gonna say it's like 6 or 7, 5, 6 or 7 in. But I was gonna say, early comic book Mark is the perfect example of what would happen if a massive real life comic book nerd, so me or any one of us sitting here right now, got superpowers, because he's not treating it, he's not like, oh, I'm a superhero, he's not like Spider-Man where he's like, my fucking uncle is dead, I gotta lock in, he's like, dude, I read comic books and now I can punch supervillains, and then he flies around and punches supervillains, and then Silver,
dog.
Oh yeah, Science Dog, and then the show does Seance Dog, because I don't think they had the rights to do Science Dog or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's
Either
weird.
way.
Yeah, the rights thing is weird.
Something there. I don't know.
There are a lot of other capes. God damn it. There are a lot of other superheroes.
No!
Wild shows up in every single episode.
Dude. We call they're superheroes in this fucking house, okay? They're superheroes or they're masks.
There's a lot more superheroes. There's I forget what Bryn's team was called in the early, because you just
teams, bro, whatever. They got dumbass names, dude. Fucking Globe Shido teams. None of them matter, alright? It's all about the Guardians of the Globe, which I actually think is a decent name, by the way. I think Guardians of the Globe is pretty solid. You know what isn't solid? The Teen Team. It is. What even is that name, dude? Also, Robot is like 30.
Robot.
And he's a robot. He's not even a teenager. Like, even if he wasn't a weird... Well, it's not his fault that he was, born deformed. But, even if he wasn't what he is in a fucking test tube, he's a robot. Not a teenager, is my point.
Yeah. If we're talking about differences, let me just say, Robot, whole lot more reasonable in the early show. In the early book, there are just some panels where he straight up just looks like a psycho. Like, he straight up looks like a villain in some of the early panels. Where he's just staring at people silently.
Yeah, it does the same thing that, what I just said, we said with the, killing the Guardians early kind of establishes a sort of tone. Robot is the robot plot happens like much later in the comic book. Like, you know, like in the book, it's like super kind of deep in that
Yeah,
we
it's like the
get robot
last.
stuff.
It's like the second to
Yeah.
last big arc.
But from the
No, I don't mean that.
start
I
of
mean the.
Robot, it's very uneasy.
Yeah, well, I meant
Oh,
like
you
the
mean
show.
you
The
mean
show
all the
gives him the new body quicker,
yeah.
so there's not as
Yeah.
much like time to make him weird. Because in the comic book, there's a lot of time devoted. Like you said, Stewie, there are a lot of panels of the robot head just looking at someone
he's
after
just
they have left the room, and there's no emotion.
dead stare.
He
at
doesn't
somebody.
emote.
Yeah.
It's not, you know, it's not like it's not like Ultron or Vision where they kind of have like weird smile. Like it's just nothing, and so you're kind of left like, even if it's not like as we learn later, his intent is in no way sinister. It's just he looks sinister, so you're like something is wrong with this robot guy, which I think is a testament to the art because I like the art in this. I like the early art. It's a little rough.
The art
but
stays
like
good.
it.
Yeah, the early art is a little rough. It's a third party comic company. It's not one of the big two, so it's it's forgivable.
It was like 2004. You know, like. I don't know. I think the Cory
It
Walker
gets
was
good.
great. Well, yeah. I mean, when Ryan Otley
it was
takes
good
over,
when it mattered to me.
Yeah.
That's all.
Well, I like Kirkman does
all
this because I just read Walking Dead for a different YouTube video that I'm making, not a Cantos, and which is also obviously written by Robert Kirkman, and he does this a lot. But he does it in Invincible, he does it in Walking Dead, and it entertains me to no end. And it's when he like reuses panels to do like jokes, and so the earliest one I can think of is when Mark like throws the trash bag into the air when he gets superpowers, and it's just like 4 panels of his face, and then the last one he goes, "It's about time." Like I don't know, it does stuff like that. It does that when the Omni-Man like finds out of his powers, where he's like, "Are you sure?" It's just like 5 panels of Omni-Man's face, which I really like. I like the paneling in this a lot. It's I don't know, it's fun, it's kinetic, especially later when
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, well, you can feel
in
the movement, you know, which is hard to do in a
Yes.
comic book. But the biggest early change, all right, biggest early change, they cut Mark's physics teacher, okay? I think this is a sin, all right? This guy,
Dude, it is.
I don't even remember his name, but
I kind of agree with you.
I jokingly earlier in the Discord was like, them cutting the physics teacher is like thematically relevant. It's not really that relevant, but it's like, I like that early arc because it's like it's an easy win for Mark and Eve. Kind of sets up their relationship, and then you also get to see how Omni-Man like reacts to situations pre finding out he's a bad guy. Where when he picks him up, he goes, "Oh, I don't have fucking time for this," and he just chucks him into the air, and he explodes. Like I don't know, it's a fun way to be like, oh, maybe Omni-Man's like not on the level, you know. As much as a jobber is Immortal would have tried, you know, like regardless.
Omni-Man.
Gonna be a lot of memes in the edit of this one. It's gonna be a lot of fucking dumb jokes. But I miss the physics teacher in the show. I miss the physics teacher. The shame.
No, I think it is kind of weird that they left that because not only does it do all what you said, it also kind of just a tiny bit sets up the reanimate, like the weird cyborgness. There are people going around and making cyborg.
Yeah,
This is the thing that happens.
They're very similar.
You get that vibe.
They're pretty similar plots. Yeah, which might be why they cut it. I don't know. I think
they could do it.
I think it's a nice prelude to the reanimate existing.
Well, I don't know. It's a great. It's just a nice setup, like in my mind, like how when Uncle Ben gets shot, Spider-Man like spends that week or whatever, however long, tracking that guy down. It's like a prelude. It's like what you need to become the character, and then the show just kind of got rid of it. And I think the show just like threw in the Flaxens or whatever, like the aging, like it was just like whatever. Mark is fighting aliens with his dad now or something. Like immediately,
and Omni-Man destroys our planet.
Yeah, which he does in the comic book. That's just off panel.
Yeah,
he just doesn't. We don't see it in the comic, but
it's a little longer in the comic, I think, because in the show he comes back with a little mustache, and the comic comes back with a full like a beard.
Yeah, Well, yeah, he's like, I spent a couple months in the Flagson dimension. You're like, all right, I guess,
Led
man.
like a slave revolt, apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, the
Mentions that, which is,
show
a nice little reference.
in the
But,
show he just fucking kills them all. Or not all of them
It's
that's
because
just
just
they
my
come.
planet.
their
Yeah,
entire civilization, like the span of a minute.
I know it's a little crazy. But my biggest problem with the show, and I've been saying this since season 1 came out. I remember having this talk with everyone that's watched it. I think they make Mark like a bitch. Like he loses every single fight in season
Yeah, I
1 of
know.
that show. It's
I
bad.
always thought I always thought you were exaggerating when you said, "Oh yeah, Mark just goes and like fights guys in the comics and wins most of the time." I'm like, you must be like talking about like glip shows. No, no, he straight up just fights other supervillains that are kind of minor, sure, but they're still
Yeah, but yeah,
supervillain, and he wins. He
yeah.
wins without much help.
It's like it's always because like his first real loss I think in the comic is when Titan betrays him because Titan wants to like take over the gangs, and then like Mark ends up accidentally fighting Battle Beast, and he gets his ass. Which in the comic, obviously it's the introduction of Battle Beast, a goat, all right, but also it's
Go
like
go!
it's one of those moments for me when you're first reading the comic, you're like, oh fuck, Mark just got his ass handed to him, and then it still happens in the show. But in the show, I'm just like, yeah, he got his ass handed to him last week too. Like this ain't nothing new for me. And season 2, I think, keeps the trend up where Mark kind of loses a lot, and you're sort of like, I don't know. For me, it makes the future stuff like Conquest, where he's like almost, he's on the edge of the rope. Where I'm like, dude's on the edge of the rope in every single fight. Like this is nothing. Um,
Yeah.
so I prefer that about the comic. That's like one of the big reasons I think I prefer the comic.
On that same token, in the show they make the teen team a lot more. That's what I'm
Relevant?
looking for. Relevant, definitely. But I was
Yeah.
talking about like they get a lot more wins. That's what I was trying to
Yes.
say.
They do.
Rex is an actual character. He
So
he
is
actually
Ray.
fights. He actually beats. Yeah, Ray is an actual character. He's not just some fucking loser.
Ray in the comic is a fucking glup shitto background
He's
nothing character.
he gets like angry at Mark once, and it's like, oh, maybe there could be like a little rivalry there. No,
No.
no, he just gets angry at him once. They can even be bothered to make him like a little gluptional rival.
Nope.
No, just the jobber, just jobber
Honestly,
through and through.
if I had to distill, if I had to say, like, actually put to words my main problem with the Invincible show, though I still love it and have seen every episode, I think my main problem
Mhm.
is it gives all of the side characters a lot of room to grow and expand, and does that really well, but at the expense of Mark, I think. In my opinion, like at the expense of Mark getting
Yeah, I
better
think you're onto
content, it's
something.
giving it to Rex. And I love show Rex. I like book Rex too. He's not really
But
in it
correct,
as much.
there was potential there, but he didn't get a lot of screen time,
I think
for lack of a better
I
term.
mean, he's pretty much,
Yeah.
he's the same character with less screen time, and I think the only major difference is I think he's more of Mark's friend in the comic book than he is in the show. Not saying they're not friends in the
Yeah.
show, but like Mark and Rex in the comic are like actual
Yeah, their chemistry
friends.
was a little more believable in the
Um,
comic.
and then he dies. So rest in peace,
I
one of
say in
the
the
ghosts.
show they're closer to our friendly rivals than like proper
Yeah,
friends.
and they started that in season 3. They started to be like, I remember because we all watched it together, and you guys were like, "Oh, Rex and Mark are going on adventures," and I'm sitting there like,
And
"For
then he
how
fucking
long?"
dies.
No, yeah, it's like, "For how long?" I know it's coming. Like, it's not gonna work very well.
Dude, I mean, this is minor spoilers, but this whole video is gonna be
It's all
spoilers. I'm
spoilers.
kind of upset they didn't get to his backstory before he died.
Yeah,
Like
the backstory
proper. Because
comic.
Yeah.
in the comic we
Really
get like a
didn't.
small little few-page interlude with his backstory, as well as the other team.
I was hoping they would have done because
And
they
we
did
got
they did that. I
Eves
was gonna
in a
say they did that
special.
Eve
Yeah, that's
special.
what
I
I'm
was
saying.
hoping they
Yeah.
would do a Rex or a Ray or a fucking Kate special. I don't really like Kate that much, but
Yeah,
like,
the Kate lore is kind of crazy. The Kane Paul lore, I wasn't
yeah,
expecting.
Yeah, it was kind of nuts.
no,
Wasn't expecting that.
all of the team have like the glove shitos in Invincible. I think are done really well in the comic book, and I mean, and in the show, obviously. But like, Like honestly, Immortal is forever a jobber, but I love his backstory so much. That's fucking
It's so
Abraham
good.
Lincoln, man. And like a Crucible Knight and all of those other things, like he's just all of this fucking shit, and I'm like, that's
Yeah, he served in the World Wars. He served
just
in the
badass.
Revolutionary War. I think there's a picture of him there.
I think he's fighting
Yeah.
dinosaurs. Is when he first gets his power, like he's a caveman fighting dinosaurs or something. Like
Yeah, something like that.
hell yeah,
Oh
man.
fuck.
I don't know. It's fucking what a weird character who sucks. Immortal is a complete jobber.
He gets a little bit better in the book when he retires, but yeah.
Yeah, I love that the jobber gets better when he quits the job. Yeah,
I mean,
you're right.
we'll get
but
to it later. I have it. Yeah, we'll get to it later when
yeah,
we talk about that whole
I
arc.
was gonna say I don't have much
That's the
else
thing
to
to say.
say about the show.
I mean,
Amber. Some Amber
yeah, I was about to say
They
there's
did
Amber. We
so
haven't talked about her.
okay. I know this is divisive online. For the most part, I thought Amber. All right, Amber in the comic. Okay. Again, this is a 2004 comic book. Okay, there are some things that don't hold up. Namely, Mark says some words we will not be repeating here.
Yeah, he does. I forgot about
He
that.
says someone Kirkman. He does that in Walking Dead as well. As a different time, it's a different time, and also William, who is still gay in the comic book. It takes a lot longer for William to be gay in the comic book. Him and Mark make quite a few "this is gay" jokes that are kind of funny, but they're not really that funny, and they're sort of outdated.
It's amusing in hindsight because William is
I like
actually
the
gay,
first
but, like,
one.
when you read it, it's just kind of like,
Yeah. I don't know. The first time the first time he flies William, and Mark is like, "Man, this is so gay." I'm like, "Yeah, okay, a 15-year-old would say that." And then Mark just like, they keep making that same joke. Like Eve then flies him, and Eve is like, "Man, this is so gay." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?"
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
it's not
They
that
do it
weird.
with-
Like, it's funny when your best friend of 10 years says it, but then it's like when anyone else says it, I'm like, Kirkman, it's not that funny.
Yeah,
Like,
they do it with Titan too, I think.
Titan does it. We'll keep because Mark
Oliver
picks
gets
Titan
one.
up, and Titan goes, "This is fucking gay, dude." And I'm like, it's not okay. And like, my point to bring that up was Amber in the comic book exists to be hot and for Mark to have sex, and in the show she has like a little more. She kind of has a character. I do hate her reaction in the show to finding out that Mark isn't. I can't stand the secret identity thing when it's revealed and the other person's like mad that you didn't tell them because it's like that's the point of a secret identity. And especially when you live in a world with other superheroes, like Amber does. Like Mark isn't the only superhero, so it's like no, this is like a normal thing. I don't know.
As if Mark isn't getting almost murdered every week in that
yeah,
show.
like I don't know.
Yeah, that whole thing was weird.
Her in the comic is it's fun though when Mark is like, she's like, "Oh my god, I'm sleeping with a superhero." It's like, okay, that's kind of a fun reaction, I guess. Like, then they break up like 10 issues after that.
And then she starts dating a womanizer.
One of her roommates like a gaslit her, which is just also weird.
Dude, her roommate
uncomfortable to read. Like,
no. I mean, I don't even. It's hard to blame her roommates because, like,
I mean, yeah, the roommates don't know, but she knows.
Yeah, but she knows. Yeah. It's like because I'm like, you're reading the roommates and you're like, man, you guys suck because you're shitting on Mark, and then I'm like, well, wait a minute. From your perspective, your friend your friend's boyfriend has missed like 30 dates and very important meetings to do something. I'm like, yeah, I guess you also would be like, break up with him. But like you said, Sui, the fact that Amber is like, maybe they're right. I'm like, Amber, you could turn the news on and watch him getting his ass beat on the news, all right? I don't know. They basically got rid of show Amber, though. Just like they did Comic Amber, honestly. They just got rid of she's just gone at this point. So
both Ambers are kind of just like a nothing burger. Like, the whole discourse doesn't really matter because...
I want to know, do you guys think they're going to do the beating thing in the show?
The what?
Her boyfriend, when her boyfriend beats her.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think so.
I kind of want him to, because it's, I don't know, thematically, and it it it's important in
It
the
would be
moment for
it
Blue
would be
Suit Mark
interesting to
to
see
be an
how
asshole.
that show. Yeah, I was about to say
Yeah.
it'd be interesting to see how the show Mark would react to that because he's a little more reasonable in the show.
He is more reasonable in
Because
the
as
show.
soon as let me tell you, as soon as Mark gets that blue suit on the comics, he just fucking weaks. He loses
He
it.
does.
It's his
Goes up deep.
symbiote arc, which is what Kirkman has said it's
It
supposed to be on.
really
It's
is.
his symbiote arc. He's supposed to be darker and making worse decisions, and I feel like that hasn't happened in the show with the blue suit yet. So I'm hoping they do a lot
We
of
got
that in
kind of
season
close with
4.
Oliver, but yeah, that's about all we got.
Yeah, but
Oliver in the
like
Cecil
Oliver
stuff.
does some shit that I'm like, I don't
Yeah, I
support
mean, the
spanking
Oliver
a
thing was
child, but I'm
justified.
like, maybe someone should spank Oliver. All right, bro's doing some things. Bro's a murderer. I like
Speaking of
Oliver.
Oliver,
We'll get to Oliver.
I know. What do you
Well, I
got
mean,
to
we could
say
talk about
What do
his
you got to say
differences
about
now.
Oliver?
yeah. So Xander and I, we talked about this back when I was reading. But the comic book does a great job of making Oliver an actual alien, and the
Yeah,
show makes him a human.
he's straight
Yeah.
up disassociate from humanity in the
Immediate-
comic.
Yeah, well, immediately like that's his whole bit is, Mark, I'm not a human. Debbie, I'm not a human. You're my mother, and I love you too, but I don't like
Whereas
humans.
fucking like a high schooler when he's like 4, like
Yeah,
No, I
and
mean, yeah, you keep going on.
in the show, he's a kid. He's a human kid. He's not having these logical,
yeah, it's like
like,
it's like a little Game Boy he's
Skateboard,
playing
Yeah.
on.
skateboard friends, yeah.
every panel with him explaining himself is paragraphs. It is paragraphs of deep analytical big brain.
It's
Like
so
he's
funny
saying
because Mark is
college
just
level
standing
shit.
there too. He's like, "Can you just like relax?"
Say
like
that in Fortnite terms, bro. He
Well, that is because so you kind of mentioned this where you were like, Mark is a little stupid, and I was like, oh, he's kind of naive, but I do like that Mark like isn't really that smart. He's like as
Like,
smart as your
every
average
conversation
guy
with
is.
him in early Oliver is like, "Hey man, maybe you don't kill people." And Oliver's like, "Well, actually," and it's just a paragraph of nonsense.
Mhm.
And Mark's just like, "All right, we'll talk about this later."
But literally, because Oliver remembers everything, so he hits him with some like philosophical nonsense, and Mark is like, I can't.
I remember
even-
my birth.
Yeah, Mark is like, dude, I'm trying to go out with Eve right now. Like, I don't have time to digest what you're saying. I'm going to ignore you now. It's like, I'm going to leave you alone and hope it settles, which is like such a real reaction, I think, to Oliver, where Mark is like, I just can't figure this out. Like, I don't know how to stop you, which is great. And it's fun, like, I think in the comic, which, another thing with what you said, Nolan, where in the show, Oliver's kind of a human, so I am interested to see what they're going to do with that, because in the comic, I think it's great when he like leaves Earth and joins the alien civilization, because then you do see him start to become a little more human-ish, and he has a little more
he's, like,
values.
socializing.
He's still a little like, I'm gonna murder people if I need to murder people, that kind of thing. But he's found more loved ones and more reasons to like give a shit, and it's interesting seeing that come from the toddler who was saying stuff like, why don't we just let all the humans die, brother Mark? You're like, oh, okay, man, Which he does end up doing later as an adult. He does almost let all the humans die, but...
Yeah, we'll get to
Yeah,
that. That's a whole...
Insane shit. I think Alan also has that same progression.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but with Alan...
Humanity.
Well, Alan has like a politician progression.
Yeah, I was about to say, it's a little more justified with Alan, because he's managing the entire Senate who's deathly afraid of the rightfully afraid of the death culture of Supermen just existing out in the galaxy that they can't really do much about, who at any moment can just show up and obliterate their civilization. What should they try to do? Like 3 times.
Yeah. I guess, yeah, I mean, we can move on from the show. I think the one thing the show does perfectly is the Viltrumites, which obviously leads into the rest of the comic. I think every scene with the Viltrumites is like great. Specifically, Conquest, perfect. Literally,
The Conquest
they made the
panels
fight.
are so great.
Like, the fight is like better. The I'm so lonely speech is like fucking perfect. and that's not in the
For real.
book. But that does
Yeah, it
lead
isn't.
to the post show stuff. So the show ends. Season 3 ends with Mark realizing maybe he does need to kill people. And then from there, the comic book just becomes insane. It's just not.
Yeah,
It's pure insanity.
right after the conquest stuff, we get more Flaxens. No, not Flaxens. The squids.
The sequids.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the sequids. We get the Flaxens later. The
Yeah,
sequids show up again, and Mark just murders the astronaut guy. Like the astronaut guy possessed, he just decapitates him like immediately as soon as they start getting overwhelmed again. And there's been like no clear solution. Like they tried, like Robot tried his like old Sonic trick again and it didn't work. Mark just murders the dude like in front of everyone. Like, even Robot of all people was like, Mark, what the fuck? And Mark's like,
No,
sorry.
My favorite thing about the Invincible comic book is that they have like real people conversations where Mark tells Oliver after Conquest, he's like, I have to murder people. And then he murders a guy, and Robot is like, why did you murder that guy? And Mark goes, shit, why did I murder that guy? Like immediately a day later, he's already like, maybe I shouldn't be murdering people. And I love that so much. Because that's what a real person would, if a real guy got superpowers and he murdered a guy, his next thought would be like, oh, Jesus Christ, man, what have I done, Which I don't know, I really love. That being said, Mark does continue murdering people. He has no problem murdering bad guys. I mean,
we get bad guys.
Yeah.
I just wanted to segue into the conquest stuff. I think it happens after the sequence stuff. I could be misremembering.
Yeah, it's right after. Yeah, because
he escapes immediately, which
Cecil, it's great. What a great
Cecil, Mister. We have this guy buried under 5 tons of tungsten, 5 miles underground, surrounded by explosives. There's no way he gets out of this.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like 2 issues later, he just fucking flies out of the facility.
Can we talk about how his skin heals, by the way?
Yeah,
he's like entirely healed.
Those
like
they just got a crazy like a time chamber.
Basically,
I just wanted to shout out their healing factor rivaling Wolverine. Apparently, bro was melted down to meat, and then he's like, nah. 2 days later, I'm chilling.
I mean, Mark walks on the sun.
Yeah, but he's got the robot suit on, It's a couple. He's got a couple buffs in there to keep him alive for a little bit longer. No, yeah, but yeah. So Conquest gets out, and then that leads into the Viltrumite War, where Mark puts on. He brings the old yellows back.
Yeah, he finally ditches his symbiote suit.
Yeah, I like the yellows better. Listen, that classic, that yellow, it's just better looking.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, I've come to agree. I used to like the blue suit a lot. I still do. I do like the yellow now.
The yellow hits, man.
It just feels so good when we get it back.
Exactly. It's classic. It's iconic. Okay.
Especially after watching fucking Bulletproof walk around in it.
Oh my god, we don't have to talk about Bulletproof. I hated that. I hate that arc.
It does sort of pay off because he gets killed later. But it's such a weird thing where it's like, okay, Bulletproof is now a main character, and he's like an Invincible Legacy character. Now, to be fair, I think it happens because all of Invincible is like a commentary on superhero tropes and superhero, like, the building blocks of a superhero story. Like Invincible's kind of deconstructing them and talking about them, and so I think Bulletproof is trying to talk about like the legacy hero and taking on another hero's mantle. But it's so weird because he's just like really bad at it. He hits on Eve, and then
he's constantly creeping on Eve.
Him and his girlfriend.
I'm pretty sure it's wife. They're engaged.
Murder his parents, and it never comes up again. The only time it ever comes up again is when people would be like, "Hey, Bulletproof, how was your weekend?" And he's just, yeah, man, it was a good time, yeah. And you're just like, oh, Jesus Christ, man. He like throws their car off a
he throws their car off a bridge while it's lit on fire, I think.
Yeah,
explodes.
to like get rid of the evidence, which is just like, insane. By the way, his backstory is insane with his brother, where he's like,
Yeah, his brother was like a genius, like kind of like Angstrom, and he was like making like a super serum or something, or like some kind of like
mm-hmm,
testing laser. And he tries to kill
bulletproof.
his
Yeah.
bulletproof with it, and it gives him his powers. And the brother doesn't like that, and bulletproof murders him. And then
In
he
self-defense.
just in
Yeah,
self-defense,
yeah.
obviously.
He's
Yeah. Because he
unlike the
did
parents.
kidnap him and hook him up
Yeah,
into the machine.
yeah. But then he pretends to be his
He
brother.
pretends to be him for
But
God knows
only in
how
front of
many
his
years.
parents. It's like only in front of his parents. Like his girlfriend knows, and I'm like, I can't remember if the Guardians know who he really is. But either way, I'm like,
So,
It doesn't matter.
what an
I just hope they
insane.
cut that art.
I think it's a cool origin though. I'm like,
Yeah,
that's a
the
really
origin
fun
is fine.
origin.
I think they could keep the origin, but that entire suit arc, I don't think we
No,
need it. It
no,
was just
it's
weird.
when him hitting on Eve, because then when he goes home, he like hits on Eve, and he goes home and he's like truly in love with his girlfriend, and then his girlfriend's like, you're not cheating on me again, and he's like, no, it's a mistake, and I'm like, what are you doing, man? Like, what are you
he's
doing?
just such a wreck.
And
It's
he's
just
such a
being
wreck.
weird
And then
for a reason.
meanwhile, Mark is in space with Omni-Man, Oliver, Tech Jacket, Alan, that old Viltrumite I can never remember the name of.
I just call him
Thaddeus?
Senator.
Thaddeus.
Yeah,
And
it's
then
Thaddeus.
Battle Beast and Space Racer. And they're
Dude,
they're
Space
going to
Racer, my
war.
God.
Okay, Space Racer is the GOAT, but he does take Battle Beast's girl post
That
post
was
Battle
kind of
Beast's death,
fucked up,
which is
yeah.
I mean, it's not wrong. Battle Beast is already gone, but like, I don't know, man. That was your homie, you know. I'm like, hey, Space Racer.
I just like that I feel like his only power is his gun. He just shoots
Yeah.
me. He just shoots me with the ultra.
Super gun.
Yeah, literally a gun that can't be deflected is it. And then he's got a space motorcycle. Listen, he's badass. Tech Jacket's badass as well. Tech Jacket's like,
Yeah, Tech
and
Jacket's
he's like
awesome.
a
I like
teenager with a cool metal thing.
I like how he's the only normal one there. He's trying to talk to everyone, and everyone's just like grimly accepting that they may never see their loved ones again. Tech Jacket's like, you guys like movies?
Yeah. Well, then he has that arc when him and Alan are like hiding in that ship after it kind of goes to shit, and Tech Jacket's like, I got a beard, dude, I have to shave, and he starts like freaking out. It's the first time he's ever grown facial hair, and you're just like, dude, what are you doing, man? Like, okay. But the
I hope we
Viltrumite
get
War,
so much of them in season 4.
I can't
or
wait.
3.
The Viltrumite War immediately is the craziest shit ever. Like, Conquest shows up. And
Yeah,
you're
Conquest
like,
shows up and Marco loses it because, why wouldn't
oh,
he?
Cecil, yeah. Well, no, I was gonna say Conquest shows up the first time, and it's you're almost like as the reader, you're like, okay, holy shit, like there's no way it'll be as crazy that, and then immediately the Viltrumite War starts. Conquest shows back up, and then him and Mark, Mark, while flying through a planet, is choking him out, and then Conquest shoves his hand into Mark's guts, and then Mark's entrails are trailing behind them.
Yeah.
And that's the start of the Viltrumite War. Like that, the
protagonist.
While
that is happening, Oliver and Omni-Man, the others, are fighting for their lives against the other.
Every other Viltrumite. And like the weaker Viltrumites too, by the way. It's not even like Rag isn't even there yet. And then they find Mark, like Oliver and Omni-Man, and they're like, "Oh my god, he killed Conquest!" And it's like, okay. And then
they find Mark with his hand, like death gripping Conquest's neck.
Yeah, I think is the real moment that Mark decides to like be a murderer. I know he says it after the first Conquest fight, but I don't really think he means it until he sees Conquest again. And he's like, nope, this time I'm killing people.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the entire fight, like he's just saying, I'm killing you now.
Yeah,
I'm killing you this time.
He's just fucking tweaking. And then you get a little mini, like 2 issues or whatever of Omni-Man and Oliver bonding because, they never really got to bond. So now it's just like them. It's actually great. Their relationship's great. I like that, like, I don't know, it's very real parenting where Omni-Man kind of at first is like trying to treat Oliver like he is Mark. And then Oliver hits him with the, Dad, I have no care in the world for any living beings except for you, Mark, and Debbie, bro. And Omni-Man's like, oh, son, you're perfect. Like immediately, he's like, that's what I'm saying. Like, which is great. And then what do they? After that, they go to the planet, don't they? They don't go. They go to Viltrum, right?
Yeah,
I think
because
so.
Mark finishes healing, and then Omni-Man's like, we have to get back immediately
Yeah.
because while they were gone, the Viltrums showed up to the capital and fucking like basically ruined it.
Oh, the alien
I'm pretty
capital.
sure.
Yeah. Yeah, like the coalition capital or whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what they
and
call
then
the
they go to
coalition.
Viltrum. Listen, this comic book is hype moments and aura. That's what we're talking about
Yeah,
today.
what
Okay.
we've been describing is basically just like it's just like issue after issue. Like there is no break.
No,
Like for like a solid 15ish issues, you're just straight fighting.
it's pure fighting, and they show up outside of Viltrum fucking space, I guess, because they're not in the air, they're in outer space, and and the Viltrumites are like, we should stop this. We're just gonna kill each other, and now you're at our planet. And the first thing they do is Omni-Man, Mark, and fucking Thaddeus fly through the planet. They destroy the planet. And it's like I don't even everything up to that is like it's all fucked up and it's crazy, but it's not like that crazy. And then Thaddeus is
Yeah,
like, I have a plan, and he just flies through the core of a planet. I don't even know.
Yeah.
I got nothing. I got nothing to
and
say to it.
you get the reign of like a dead Viltrumites surrounding Viltrum 2, like the space graveyard.
Yeah.
Which is also just a crazy visual to start off on.
Oliver gets his fucking hand ripped or his arm
Dude,
ripped off.
it's his entire arm.
And his jaw, actually. He gets his jaw punched out as well. Like, you think Oliver dies for a minute where you're like, oh my god. Listen, Oliver's got to stop hitting the villains with the big ass beatdown coming right up.
Yeah,
that's
when Thrag shows up.
Dude.
I mean, Thrag punches his jaw out, rips his arm off, and you think he dies. And which is, I think, right, and then after that is when they like fucking dive through the planet. And they destroy the skull of the I can't remember the leader's name, but like that guy who like the king of Viltrumite who they worship or whatever. Which is fun that Thrag is like the Grand Regent and not even in line to be king, like, because the royal line has seemingly disappeared, but it not really, And then after that, the Viltrumites go to Earth. And they're like, we're going to live here now because you destroyed our planet, and we're going to have a little bit of a peace while we have kids. And,
very, very Cold War.
Well, and every character is like, yeah, okay, except Mark, who tweaks about it. Like, Omni-Man's like, there's nothing we can do about it, Mark. They got him.
No, it's funny. It's so funny because Mark, he initially doesn't tell anyone, but I think Cecil's the first one he tells, and he starts telling more people after that. And like, everyone but... I even think Cecil was like, I mean, all right, if they're not gonna do anything, then I guess we'll just keep an eye on them. And Mark's like, what?
Yeah, Mark's tweaking about it, and everyone else is like, well, there's not really anything any of us can do about it. So, and luckily for them, every single one of the Viltrumites, except for Thrag, because he doesn't give himself the chance, but every single one of them finds a romantic partner and immediately falls in love, just like Omni-Man did. This immediately, I cannot remember the Black Viltrumite's name, but the guy who has like 30 girlfriends, and he's like, I love you all.
No. No.
Oh, is that the one? Is that the guy with the eye?
He was the monogamous.
Sorry, it's the one with the eye. My bad.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I remember the black one. He
just falls in love, right? He just has like a girlfriend. Yeah.
He's specifically the monogamous one.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say he's the one who tells Thrag, he's like, I don't want to cheat on her. That's right. And Thrag's like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
She would be sad.
Yeah. And then the guy with the eye. It's like 30 girls, because I know there's that panel where he tells them. Yeah, there's that panel where he tells them all because they all have little kids, and he's like, I love all of you.
And you're like,
oh yeah.
Just like, I know that's not gonna go well. And then that is when is that? No, a little bit after. I'm trying to think when the Anissa thing happens, Because then Mark just kind of like is.
That's
a superhero.
way
I was
later.
gonna say,
That's
so then Mark's
way
just kind of like a
later.
superhero for a while. That's when we meet Dinosaurus after the Viltrumite War, I think, or it might be a little bit before. But Dinosaurus kind of becomes a character, and he fucking blows up Las Vegas. Or glasses Las Vegas,
wipes it out. Yeah.
which has like one of my favorite. I mean, I have a lot of favorite panels, but one of the ones I remember when it's like Cecil and a couple of his guys, and then Mark. And Mark, like Cecil and his guys are in the background, Mark's in the foreground, and they're just standing on the glass that used to be Las Vegas. And Cecil's guy is like, oh, actually, the climate readings have gotten 30 times better. And Mark, in very tiny lettering, goes, Dinosaurus was right. And they go, what? And he goes, oh, nothing, never, I didn't say anything. You're just like, oh, God, man.
Mm-hmm.
Bro's going insane.
It's crazy. He actually goes off the deep end there.
No, Mark does go. The dinosaur, I love the Dinosaurus arc because what Dinosaurus did in Las Vegas is obviously very wrong, but also when Mark says he is right, he's kind of got a point where it's like Dinosaurus is fixing the climate. He just needs someone to steer him into doing it in better ways, and then no one lets Mark do that. Every single character tries to stop Mark from doing that, and that causes basically Noah's Ark.
It really annoyed me. It really annoyed me when Cecil was like, Dinosaurus is a lunatic. He went too far. Cecil, you have a guy that works for you that makes necromancy cyborg.
Yeah. And Dark
You made necromancy cyborgs out of other marks, Cecil.
Yeah. You kept Compass alive. Like,
here.
There's no. I love Cecil. I think Cecil's a great character, but it's like you can't. I don't know. I think
because Comic Cecil is a little different. I feel he's not as involved, and
that's true.
He's a little less sympathetic, like everyone else's play. I feel like
he's a little meaner.
Yeah, he's a little meaner. I feel like Show Cecil is gonna be a little more willing to work alongside dinosaurs.
I've talked about this a lot to Nolan. I love Dinosaurus' power. I love that he is just Hulk, but only when he becomes apathetic to something or bored. And I love that he doesn't know that. When like Cecil first captures him, and Cecil's like, "Okay, so how do you turn into Dinosaurus?" And Dinosaurus is like, "I don't know, man. It's just like whenever people start like talking, and I just start not caring about anything because it's so boring." And Cecil's like, "So when you're apathetic," and Dinosaurus is like, I guess. I don't know, man. Can I go back to watching TV?" And I'm just like this fucking idiot. Like I love it. Dinosaurus is a fun character. Also, he's a dinosaur, and dinosaurs are cool. That's I like dinosaurs.
Yeah, he has very fun design. It is just like a dinosaur.
It's a big red dinosaur, yeah. So like, and he's also like on the level of like he's as strong as a Viltrumite, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, I go as far as to say he's on just like an inch below that level of where Mark was during that arc.
Because he does get his ass beat by Thrag, but the first couple times him and Mark fight, it's like pretty even.
Yeah, but that was and also that was Thrag. So
Thrag is a little different.
There's a big power difference.
Thrag's a special case, but then
I remember he does beat up some other Viltrumites, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, and during like the escape or whatever.
Yeah.
But then so a little bit after the Viltrumite War, and after that, after you kind of just get Mark being a guy. Well, after the Viltrumite War, you do learn that Eve was pregnant and then had an abortion because Mark was not around.
Yeah,
because like a pretty big thing.
Died.
Yeah. And then she and William sort of become best friends. And I liked the has the balls to tackle certain things that other comic books will never touch, like abortion and rape, and those are the two big ones where I'm like, wow, okay, Kirkman, I'm like, damn, like, all right,
abortion
dude,
thing
like,
was crazy.
Abortion's crazy.
Forgot all about that.
Well, because they basically immediately get pregnant again after that, and then Mark doesn't he go away for a little bit and he comes back and she's like even more pregnant? Where does he go? He goes to space, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's running a lot of space missions at that
What does
point
he
because the
do?
Viltrumites are on Earth. I think, was it visiting Alan in the coalition to talk about the war? Like the peace offering that Thrag gave? I think that's what it was, right? Am I misremembering?
Maybe.
Fuck, we should have done this a lot sooner. We should have done this
I
a
got
lot
this.
sooner.
Comic book arcs. All right, we got this.
We're professional at this.
We're so good at this thing. Hold on. Okay, we got this. We got this. Also, okay, so while I'm looking this up, we also get something that I do think isn't handled very well in the show, which is in the comic book, which is Debbie and Omni-Man getting back together. I like that it happens. I think it's not handled very well. I think she just like immediately gets back together with him, and then all they do is
because
fuck for the rest of the comic.
It happens during the time skip because whatever happened between her and her like current boyfriend, we don't see. We just know he kind of like became a piece of shit. Yeah, I think they'll do it differently in the show because they've made the boyfriend like an actual character. For his name, it escapes me at the moment.
Paul,
the show version. Is it Paul?
I think it is. I think we were talking about that when we watched it, Stewie. You remember because Spider-Man has a Paul that we don't like to think about.
Yeah,
I think so.
But yeah, they're making him more of an actual character, and he's been nice so far, nicer than the comic. I feel because in the comic he was kind of like weird from the start.
No, I just wanted to mention. I think I really like Show Debbie. I do think she is a vast improvement over comic book Debbie. Because comic book Debbie has a couple scenes where after the Omni-Man thing, she becomes a drunk for like 30 issues. And it's bad. And she's like taking it down on Mark. And it's like, it's a hard read when Mark is like, Mom, I need you not to get drunk. And she's like, well, you're just like your fucking dad. And I'm like, oh my God, man. Like, poor Mark. But all right, so I do got it. So yeah, Stewie, you're right. So Alan becomes the leader of the Coalition of Planets after Thaddeus dies. And he has that virus that can like wipe out all the Viltrumites.
Yeah, the Scourge virus.
And Omni-Man ends up fighting Alan and Oliver to stop them from going to Earth with the virus, which I remember that was a big shout out Omni-Man for that moment where he's like, I can't let you do that. And they, beat the shit out of each other.
Yeah, because it was a new, improved version of the virus, and it had a chance to kill all of humanity alongside the Viltrumites because they're that close and like genetic information.
Yeah, they're so close. And then also I remember the Omni-Man thing was like even if it is going to kill all the Viltrumites, it's like Mark's on that planet. And I remember they were like, oh, well, we'll get Mark off of it. And he's like, will you? I remember Omni-Man was speaking about that, where he's like, are you really going to get Mark off of it? Or are you not going to, you're just going to take your chance? But then, because I've got a list here, it also says around this time is when Monster Girl and Robot come back from the Flaxen dimension. And they come back 12 years older. They don't say that, though.
Do we want to talk about it now, or do you want to wait?
I mean, it doesn't. It comes up later, so we can talk about it in a minute. Because then we get Mark ends up fighting Oliver and Alan to stop them from like putting the virus on Earth, and he takes all of the virus, and then like Dinosaurus has to help him.
Yeah, Oliver he does inject him. I think. Yeah, he does.
Oliver does. Yeah,
and he immediately pulls it out, but it was already too late.
Which is again Oliver not killing things, but it's Oliver okay with.
We get a little fake out where Vincent's like, actually, I feel fine. And then the final panel of that issue is him bleeding out of his eyes, and now I'm going like, no, you're not.
Yeah, like holy shit! But then they set him up on the moon base where where Thrag lives. He's got that fuck ass moon base.
Oh my god, dude!
And then
Dinosaurus
does, so Dinosaurus comes in and helps him, and this is a big moment because Thrag finds out that Mark is the descendant of the like Viltrumite king, and so Thrag goes in to kill him. Argyle, yeah. So Thrag goes in to kill him, and then Dinosaurus has to like fight Thrag off and save Mark, which is like
Yeah, and
Somehow,
everyone
bro.
immediately
Yeah.
distrusts him because they think he's kidnapping Mark.
Yeah, it's like a whole big thing where they're like, Dinosaurus is going crazy and he's kidnapping Mark. And it's like, no, he's actually a good, blah, blah, which is fun.
When
What's up?
when does Dinosaurus kill Mark?
Later.
It's a fucking roller coaster,
Because
bro.
then,
Yeah, the fake
yeah,
out happens immediately afterwards because everyone distrusts him. Mark escapes, and then they're looking for
I say later.
dinosaurs.
I was going to say, I think that actually happened. I think it happens right after that, actually. Because doesn't
Yeah,
Dinosaurus, because Mark's in a coma
yeah,
still. And then
yeah.
Dinosaurus does the
Because
blood thing.
yeah, I thought he did the flood thing after. I thought Mark
He does it
escaped,
after, yeah.
and then
Yes.
he went to the others, and he's like, I don't know what's going on. The Dinosaur City is helping me, and then Dinosaur spirals, and he goes off the deep end, does the flood, fakes Invincible's death, and then more nonsense with
Yeah. Well,
the
that all
Guardians
happens.
and the team
Because that all,
remnants.
I think that happens right after the virus stuff. Because then shortly after the virus stuff, Mark and Eve go into space and like don't come back. So like, I think that happens because then because Mark kills Dinosaurus, which is
Yeah,
like a big thing. He like rips him in half.
because the tsunami he did killed like a bunch
Billions of people. Like, fuck
Yeah.
living in the
no, he
Invincible.
says it was a few 100 million, but it
Right.
was like specifically designed to target like all the major cities. So there's a bunch of infrastructure damage as well.
Yeah. But then we get Evil Robot and Angstrom Levy.
Yeah.
Because Angstrom
Yeah.
Levy comes back, and Mark is like, Robot, I need you to help me track him because he's never gonna stop. Even though when he does come back, he kind of does stop. Like, because him and Eve have that conversation where
Is dead.
and then they have that conversation where Evie's like, you ever think that like you're being stupid? And Angstrom's like, oh, holy shit. I gotta get out of here. But then Mark is like spiraling, so he's like, I have to kill him. He's never gonna stop. I have to kill him. So Mark and Robot track him down to some fucked up dimension, and then he does end up killing him, doesn't he? Doesn't he kill Angstrom?
No,
Robot.
so
what
what happens is the crazy with the Mohawk.
The Mohawk Mark, yeah.
Because they get thrown into the different dimensions, and then Angstrom comes back after instead he's alive. He takes Eve and sends him into the dinosaur place, and then he sends him to the place where all the eating each other.
Yeah.
And then he comes back with the mark, and they're like, all right, Angstrom. And Angstrom's like, no, I'm good. And then he's like, nah, fuck you. And then the blue suit Mohawk Mark steals him and then turns him into a biocomputer.
Yeah, because Angstrom was like, here, I'll open a portal to your home dimension to send Mohawk Mark back home, and then Mark just speed blitz him.
Yeah.
Just pulls them into the dimension with him.
But then don't Robot and Mark then, because they go into that dimension, and then doesn't Robot like cut Angstrom's head off, or does he cut Mohawk?
Yeah, well, he goes up to the computer and cuts the head of the computer off, because I think Angstrom is essentially already dead at that point.
Yeah. But I think he finishes him is what he's doing.
Yeah,
but the point is he ends up leaving Mark in.
Yeah, because I remember
dimension.
Mark offered to do it first, and he's like, I'll do it. And Robot's like, no, I'll handle it. And then while Mark is like, distracted or whatever, he betrays him and then leaves.
Yeah, and then leaves him.
He kills Mohawk Mark too.
He does kill Mohawk. No, he kills Mohawk Mark. Because then our Mark has to pretend to be Mohawk Mark, who's like the ruler of the Viltrumite Empire on this planet, because our Mark then like goes to the robot of this planet who's still in his like fucked up original body, and he's like, I need you to get me out of here, and blah blah. And it takes a couple months. Because this is when he comes back. And then when he comes back, I hear this is when the Anissa thing happens. So like basically, as soon as he gets out of the other dimension and he's back in his dimension, Anissa shows up and rapes him, which is insane to say out loud. That's insane to say those words out loud. Because she like It's basically like Mark is badass and he killed Conquest, so I want to have his baby, which is
Just
yeah. It's
yeah,
handled
it's terrible
really well
to be
though, and
Martin Grayson.
I think it needs to be in the show. There's a lot of debate online about whether or not it should be in the show. I think it needs to be because I think it's handled pretty well in the comic book, and because he comes back and like Eve is super pregnant and he doesn't like he's like he has like
Yeah,
a
he
real
sort of
reaction to it. Where he's like,
rationalize it.
yeah, and he's like, I don't want to like, you touching me is reminding me of it, and they have like a real conversation about it, which I really like when he finally breaks down and tells her, where it's like, I don't know, it's a very real conversation, and I think it's handled very well.
Yeah, I do think it should still happen. I do think that what happens with Anissa afterwards.
We can get into
should
it. Yeah.
We'll get to that later.
We'll get into that. But at this point, Eve has her baby. Robot's also taken over the world. That's important to note.
Yeah, he takes over the world. Screws the world. He kills Cecil too. He
kills Cecil, takes over the world. And like, does he have a point? I don't think so. But he does technically make it better. He does get rid of crime, which is his whole reason for taking it. He doesn't take over the world as like, I want to be God. He takes it over because like he knows how to.
Oh no, he does kind of do it for that.
He does. He definitely is egotistical, but he is like
he was a king for a long time.
700 years. Dude, the lore of the Monster Girl and Robot on the Flaxen planet has some absolutely batshit insane lore. They're there for 700 years. They're in love. They're married. They become kings, the king and queen of the Flaxen Empire. There's the start of a rebellion. Monster Girl agrees with the rebellion because Robot has kind of become a dictator. Monster Girl cheats on Robot, gets pregnant by a Flaxen, gets back with Robot. Robot kills all of the royal family.
No, she gets a Flaxen.
Or she gets a Flaxen pregnant. Yes.
She
right.
Yeah.
As the monster. Because it comes out and it's like the monster form of her. But either way, Robot kills all of them because he knows that happened, but it's like, that's okay, me and Monster Girl are back together. We're about to go back to Earth. Fuck the Flaxen Emperor. So he kills all of them. It is important to note.
At first, it was kind of justified because they were slavers.
Yeah, they're not good people. When he takes over, he is toppling a regime, and only in spending, I don't know, 600 years being a king does he kind of go insane, So like, there were good intentions.
He's constantly hunting down these like slavers that just exist as a thorn in his side.
Yeah.
Let me say, Monster Girl, kind of. I'm not gonna say is entirely her fault. She did kind of push him over the edge, I think. She definitely. I think the whole her seceding to join the resistance certainly pushed him over the edge. Like, it's shown to us that that is one of the core reasons. I do think that her trying to sympathize with the slavers at the start, kind of insane. I don't understand why that was a thing.
Well, I think she's not trying to sympathize with the slavers. She's trying to sympathize with their descendants who are like 2 generations removed, kind of thing. Because it was because Robot was like persecuting anyone of this bloodline, and I think Monster Girl was like, "Hey, that's kind of wrong," and he was like, "No, they're bad guys." And now technically, Robot ended up being right because they did try to take over again. Now I don't know if they tried to take over because they didn't like Robot's regime that was killing them, or if they took over because they were always going to do that. I don't.
No, because they show as soon as they gained power, they immediately went back to their like slavery ways, which is confusing to me.
It's not great
because how did she miss that if she was there for 500 years? That's what's getting me up.
I don't know. The whole thing is weird. Robot's going insane. Monster Girl's going insane. The Flaxens are insane. She has a child and then leaves. Yeah. That child ends up coming back as like a Glepshido villain and then becomes a good guy because he's like, "Oh, Dad, you actually love me, Mom, Dad,"
Yeah, him coming back is a little big though. It does.
No, it's important. I like him
further into his spiral because he's like, "Oh God, why are they back? I thought I fixed everything."
It's also a big thing that so when Robot and Monster Girl come back, they lie to everyone. They say they're only gone for a certain amount of years when they were they say they're gone for 12 years because that's how much they aged physically, but they were actually gone for fucking 700 years. And then Robot, the moment Robot comes back, he's like being shady. Like it's weird. Like, and everyone's got a weird vibe where they're like, Robot's kind of fucking weird now, man. I mean, he was weird before, but now he's really weird.
Dressed up like a Night King. Or
Yeah, I like,
it,
dude,
it
the black
also,
robot suit. That's heat. The black and green robot.
Yeah,
that's fucking.
I was gonna say, and also him and Monster Girl, just aren't like they're trying to appear that they're friendly, but like very badly. It's very clear that Robot is like entirely uncomfortable with her when they get back for like I think like a solid like his next like 8 or so appearances. He's just constantly like
it's pretty bad. And then he as we said, he takes over the Earth, and then he basically is like, I'll kill you all. I'm gonna kill or arrest you, superpower people, if you don't assist with me. And so there's kind of like a rebellion plot going on. But none of this matters because Mark and Eve have their baby and they go to space. Mark and Eve leave, and they're like, you know what? Because Mark doesn't want to live on the robot planet or a planet ruled by robots.
Yeah,
and so he just leaves.
Thing, he tried he tried murdering Robot.
Yeah.
And he was trying to rally support. And then when it became clear that no one was going to help him, like even Omni-Man was like, hey, man.
Omni-Man goes, that's not my problem. At this point, they do get rid of Thrag at this point, right? Because this is when Thrag has been like expelled because he attacks Omni-Man, and Omni-Man somehow beats him, like Omni-Man does it, and then so Omni-Man becomes king, and they find out he's like the rightful ruler of it. Well, that's how they find out Omni-Man's like the descendant of Argyle or whatever.
Yeah, he's the rightful ruler.
Omni-Man's king. And Thrag leaves.
Full-blood Ultimates jumped Thrag.
Yeah. But this does lead. This does lead to one of the greatest hype moments in Aura in any comic book ever, and that's Thrag going to whatever the fuck Oliver's home planet is called and breeding himself and just gajillions of children. And
the panel
Alan
happens later, but I'm gonna get it.
Well, and Alan goes, I can't allow that. Send in the Battle Beast. And he just sends in Battle Beast as an assassin to kill Thrag. And it's like a 5-issue long fight of Battle Beast and Thrag just kicking the shit out of each other. And it's the greatest thing. It's so good. I've got nothing to add.
It's so good.
Big hype moment and Aura, alright? It's lovely. Battle Beast does end up dying, and speaking of Aura, Thrag makes his coat into a cape, and come on, bro. Thrag has never looked better. All right, barber on point, fit on point. Okay,
barber and fit.
Hey, listen, Thrag knows what's up. Meanwhile, Mark and Eve have a wonderful little baby named Terra. I like Terra.
Yeah, it's funny because it'll be like Mark doing like generic superhero stuff and they playing, helping the coalition, and it'll just cut back to Battle Beast and the battle of the galaxy.
There's like a moment where like one of their eyes is like almost popped out completely, and there's several times where they're like, "Do you give up yet?" And then Battle Beast is like, "Never." And they just throw themselves at each other again. Meanwhile, there's an issue. There's an entire like 5 pages where Mark struggles to shit because he had some crazy alien food the day before.
Yeah, that Oliver's wife made.
Yeah, which that's a whole thing. But I love that panel of Mark on the toilet because all right, let's dissect this. First off, bro, his toes are curled to the max. Okay, so that's already a bad sign. And 2. He's gripping the toilet with his hands. Bro listen, we've all been there. The most relatable superhero has ever been as far as I'm concerned. All right, we've all been there. Bro is going through it, okay?
Dude, that's gotta be the strongest toilet lid in the galaxy.
Panel on screen right now. Later when I'm finding the panel source, I'm gonna type in Mark taking a shit and it's gonna pop up, alright? Real hype moments and Aura here and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say his name. Fuck. We haven't said his name. We said it once at the start.
You gotta do it now. You gotta do the thing.
God, I thought it to myself earlier. I was like, we keep calling him Mark, and I hope we don't call him because I'm gonna have to cut it and put this stupid gag with Mark.
I just looked at the image, bro.
You show Mark taking
He's got 1 foot that's like not even fully on the ground. He's like lifting up off of the toilet seat,
It's on
bro.
screen. It's on screen. Okay. Can we talk about the toilet paper's too far away? Can we talk about that? It's too far.
Oh my god, it is.
This and look, I mean, look at his face. This man is like, I don't even, actually, I say we've all been through this. I don't know that I've ever had a shit this bad. I don't know that I've ever been through this. Yeah.
This is like apocalyptic right here.
Gripping the toilet seat is crazy work to me. That's the crazy part. Like, how do you get that bad, man? That's bad.
Dude, not to mention, he clogs the toilet, too.
He does end up clogging the toilet. There's a whole thing where Eve comes in and Eve is like freaking out because it's like so bad and it's... No, it's bad, man. It's bad out there. But this is where we get... I guess shout out, Oliver has a wife, and she's some like weird cockroach squid creature. She's disgusting looking. Go, Oliver, you're into what you're in, but it's disgusting. I hate looking at her and her species. I couldn't stand it. I'm xenophobic, okay? I'm sorry. I hate aliens, alright? It's coming out. It's coming out, okay? I can't... Does the alien look like a human? We're cool. Does the alien look like Oliver's wife? Jesus Christ, man. Alright. I don't really have a problem, but it is. She is weird looking. Go off, Oliver. You know what I mean? Alan's also still like president of the planets of the coalition or whatever the fuck he's doing, and he's got his girlfriend.
Tries to bomb him.
Bro hates his job.
Several times, Alan gets like there's assassination attempts on Alan's life, and he always just comes back stronger because that's what he does. And he's always like beefier. And then you said, Nolan, someone tries to bomb him, and then he gets like flame-resistant scales on his stomach or something. There's
his whole body. He just becomes like the thing.
Yeah, he's a very interesting character. Yeah, Alan's great, but here's the big moment. This is the big decisive moment. We all said literally we were going to talk about this before, and I think this is the worst moment in the entire comic. It's the only part of the comic I have an actual issue with. Mark's having a good life. He's doing his like job to get paid is like going on missions with Oliver for Alan. Basically, like Alan's like, hey, this planet's having like a revolt. We need you to stop it. And then they show up and like be superheroes, or like a bit, there's big like natural disasters and it's like go repair a bunch of buildings kind of thing. And so at one point, Alan's like, I just need you to go like save this planet or whatever. And Mark's like saving people with Oliver, and he finds this cave, and then he like starts going down the cave, and he's like, oh, there's something weird in this cave. And then like the Oliver, like the radio cuts out, and he's like, I wonder what's going on. And some fuck ass, weird ass tentacle creature grabs him, and then teleports him to the start of the comic book, the day he got his superpowers. And it's like an entire arc about how this fucking weird alien creature, basically God, I think. I don't know what it is.
I mean, yeah, they don't name it. I actually know they do tell Mark their name, but it was like some gibberish.
Yeah,
like,
it
just
doesn't
some, like,
matter.
Long string of letters.
But basically, the idea is that this weird creature is like, I have sent you back in time, or I've sent you to a different timeline, and with all of the knowledge that you have of the future, you can make this world a better place.
The worst part is he only tells them this after. Like, for like a solid few months, Mark is just living in this alternate timeline. No idea why this happened. And he helps everyone. Like, he does his job.
And the whole time he's sweet, though. The whole time he's like because he goes to the team, and he's like, I can help you do all this, and he like points out all the Flaxens and the Secoids. He tells them all the Mahler twins and stuff. Like, he tells them all of this stuff, and they're like, okay, what do you want? And he's like, I just want to get out of here. And none of them can help him. And then he even stops like Omni-Man, because he like runs into Omni-Man. He's like, Dad, I know you're Omni-Man, blah 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 blah. And then Omni-Man like runs away crying because he was about to beat the shit out of Mark, And Mark is just like, okay, Dad. And you're like, so like he's doing it, and it's just when Mark starts like fully tweaking that this alien thing is like, but don't you want to make this world a better place? And Mark is like, no. It's just immediately he's like, I want to live with my daughter.
Yeah, he has no friends. Like he doesn't have Amber or Eve, obviously.
Yeah, well, because he knows all this shit, and they're like younger, so it's like before, because he goes back to before he met all of them, so it's all fucking weird and shit. So weird. But the creature lets him out, but only after, like you said, Stewie, where it's like we could fix this world, and like it's kind of the creature like judges him for it, and it's really weird because it's like I think Mark makes the right decision.
I kidnapped you.
Yeah,
and it forced you into this alternate timeline to fix everything.
And also, like, is it an alternate timeline, or did you just put him in the Matrix? Like, what did you do?
Yeah.
Like, what are you?
The creature tells him it's an alternate timeline.
Yeah, but I don't buy that.
Never know.
Oh, this thing is like, if I was Mark, I'd be like, get me out of the Like, I would be like, get me out of the Matrix. Like, this is bullshit, but so the creature like looks down on him for choosing his family, and then it spits him out, and it is 5 years later, which is like. There's a lot of like misery porn in this book with like Anissa and Mark missing like the abortion and then Mark missing a bunch of Eve's pregnancy and like and then a lot of the other like the robot stuff and a lot of the psychic like there's a lot of misery porn and it's I think handled very well except for this because you finally get a moment where Mark and Eve are happy on the alien planet. Like they're having some adjustment problems. It's a hard adjustment, but they like it. They're getting used to it. They have their daughter Tara, and she's wonderful. It comes with all the problems with the baby. She's up all the time, but she's great. There's like an issue where it's like a daddy-daughter day where Mark's just like flying around the alien planet with his like toddler daughter. It's great. And then he's gone for 5 years. And it's just too miserable. Like I just don't, Yeah,
and every time, at least for like a good bit, anytime Mark is like talking to Eve or talking to Oliver or anybody he's close with one-on-one, he just starts crying.
Yeah. Well,
and
and Oliver's like so old. Well, and there's the scene. So I've read Invincible 3 times. This was my 3rd time reading Invincible. And there's a scene reading it because I first time I read it was early high school and then the end of high school was the second time I read it. But this time I nearly cried at the scene when he finally comes back and like Eve is kind of freaking out because she's like it's been 5 years I fully thought you were dead and Mark doesn't really know what's going on because she like Eve hasn't really put this to words yet because Eve's freaking out so Mark is like I don't know what's happening and then Tara walks out on the balcony. She's 6 years old and she says, "Are you my daddy?" And there's just a image of Mark's like scrunched up crying face and that shit hurt. That shit did not feel good. I was like oh no. Like I mean as a kid I thought it was also oh no but I'm older now and I'm like oh my god holy fuck dude art. And like he makes up for it but he also there is like a deep sadness in Mark after this for the rest of the book. Or at least I thought where like you said, Nolan, where every scene he's just like fucking crying. And I'm like, I would be too. And it's just sad. It doesn't feel good anymore. I'm just like, oh. And every moment he'd have a great moment with Tara and in the back of my head, I know is exactly what Mark is thinking. Where in the back of my head I'm like, you missed 5 years of your daughter's life because some fuck-ass alien creature took you.
You just mentioned this, but like the daddy-daughter days when she's a newborn and he's like just sitting in like at home taking care of her while Eve is out having fun. And it's like really wholesome because he's really good with her.
Yeah.
And she's like laughing and they're playing all the time. And like even though she's shitting herself and puking and baby stuff,
as babies do,
it's still like Mark is always smiling. In every one of those panels, he's smiling, even if it's handling a disaster. He's loving it. He's eating up this stay-at-home dad for the day.
Yeah,
and then right after that, he's gone.
Yep, and it's just so weird because the creature if the creature made a little more sense, I would buy it. Or if the creature came up again, because the creature's gone. Also, I should mention, like, he sends Oliver there, or Alan or somebody gets sent there, and he's like, yeah, there's nothing here. It's just gone. And you're like, What was that? Like, it had to have been God. There's no other explanation. It doesn't make any sense. By the way,
It
I
also
have
just it looks it's stupid. Like his
it's
design.
bad. Yeah, it's like a
That
weird
shit looks like the
tentacle.
Attack on Titan thing,
It
bro.
does look
It's
like
just
the
a
Attack on
massive
Titan
white
slug.
tentacle.
Yeah. No, it sucks. The whole thing
Not
sucks.
even like a cool design to look at.
Clearly, I think Robert Kirkman just wanted to do a time jump so Thrag's army could be older, but he didn't want Mark to experience it for some reason. Like, I don't know what, but like, I don't know. And this also
He's
Eve,
definitely
like,
changing it for the show.
oh,
That
there's
shit's getting
no
Yeah, there is
way.
zero way that
There's
they
no
keep that.
way. Because it's also not. I've seen some arguments for it online where people are like, oh, it is thematically important because it shows that Mark no longer, like, he's not choosing the greater good. He's choosing.
Yeah, because after this, he like straight up tells Alan he quits. Like he
Oh, well,
drops out
yeah.
of the like
I mean,
coalition.
and
does.
that's important, but it's like the arguments I've seen are like this is a major moment for Mark because he's not choosing the greater good of everyone. He's choosing the greater good of his family specifically. But I'm like, he was doing that before though. Like that's not a new. Mark was doing that when it was just him and Eve. You know, like that's not a new
Yeah,
decision
'cause
for Mark.
he distinctly tells. I remember this. He distinctly tells Alan when they first arrived to the coalition planet. He's like, "I understand you want me to work for you. I'm willing to do that and rise to the like occasion when it needed. But like, I have a family to take care of. I'm not gonna like go on crazy missions for you anymore." And Alan's like, "Okay, we'll have you do like generic superhero stuff. That's fine." And it works. Like it works. Like we were talking about earlier, he gets to still spend time
Yeah.
with his family.
I don't know. The whole thing's weird. I hope that's the one thing I'm like, you gotta change this for the show, even a little bit. Like, I don't know. I don't. Maybe you know what? If someone has made it this far in the video and you have what you believe to be a beautiful argument for why the reboot arc should be there, write it out. Give us a little comment and we will read it
for sure
and respond. But after this, I do think there's always a deep sadness, but we get to the good shit again because at this point it just becomes war.
Scrapping.
Yeah, because Thrag shows up. There's a big thing. This is crazy. Alan has Oliver act as a double agent. So Oliver pretends to want to join Thrag.
Yeah, we don't
secretly
know
working
this
for
when
Alan.
it first happens.
Well, yeah. You're supposed to be like, Oliver has betrayed them and he's working for Thrag, which I the first moment you read it, you're like, there's no fucking way. Like, I was like, there's absolutely no way Oliver did that. Because Oliver's great. He's got a mustache. I love
He's
old man
goat.
Oliver.
He gets the Vulture mustache.
When he's great with Tara. Like, he's a great uncle in all the scenes they have together. And on it, one of the sadder moments of Invincible, basically Thrag, Mark, Eve, and Tara go on like a vacation home. Because, like Stewie, you said, he quits. He's like, Alan, I'm fucking done with your bullshit. I'm out of here. And he leaves. And Thrag is like, I'm going to go kill your brother while he's on this planet. And so Oliver, like, races over there. And he gets there, like, just in time when, like, Thrag is, like, right above Tara or whatever. And Oliver's, like, fighting Thrag. And it's going so well. And then he gets introduced to the Donut Hole Club. And it hurt. It hurt a lot, you know?
It did hurt.
Oliver was the goat. Then Mark shows up and rips one of Thrag's children in half, bro.
Yeah.
Which I love.
I'll kill your son. You won't.
Yeah, because there's that moment where Thrag
Thrag
breaks Tara's leg, and he's like, I'm going to kill your daughter. And then Mark, like, grabs Thrag's oldest son neck, and he's like, I will kill your son. And Thrag goes, no, you won't. You're a hero. And Mark just goes, fuck being a hero, and then rips him in half. And you're like, you know what? Sure. Yeah, I'm like, at this point, yeah. Okay, I you know what? I'm with it. And they have
you can kill that kid.
Mark technically dies, and then Eve remakes him, or almost dies. Because Eve also almost dies here, and then she, like, remakes herself, because she can do that.
All in front of their daughter.
All in front of Tara. She does not get traumatized by it. She actually does pretty well. She actually is, like, pretty decently not.
I mean, she's crying, but
yeah, she's not having a good one. But I mean, like, in the long run, she isn't traumatized by it. But then we just basically get a big ass fucking war arc, Mark does have a fun fight with Alan, which I really like because he's like mad that he had Oliver as a double agent, which is the only reason Oliver's
Yeah, he
dead.
basically condemned him to death.
Yeah, and so he like beats the shit out of Alan in town, or in like throughout the whole capital of the alien coalition, which is really fun because there's like a fun moment where Tara's like, "Why is Dad beating up Uncle Alan?" And he was just like, "Yeah, just ignore it." He's like, "Just let him fucking scrap." But then they go to war with Thrag and his children, which I like.
We lose a couple soldiers, but you know
We do lose a couple soldiers. Omni-Man dies. Also another really sad death. He doesn't die like in the moment though. He dies like he gets injured and then they take him back and he like dies on a bed, and so he gets to say goodbye to all the characters in it. Him and Mark have a great conversation. I was gonna say I really liked him and Mark's conversation at the end. But then Robot shows up to help with like basically Robot, and then all of the superheroes are like, all right, we got to kill the Viltrumites because they are going.
Yeah, all the capable spacefaring superheroes show up. Like Space Racers there, Tech Jacket's there. The Earth Viltrumites show up, including Anissa.
Which I was gonna say. So basically, Mark and Thrag fight, and Nolan, as you mentioned earlier, they end up fighting on the surface of the sun, which is insane.
Just ridiculous.
But
he is crazy.
Listen, it's hype moments in Aura, but I can't overstate enough that it is in this like fight that like Mark kind of him and Thrag are talking, and then their mental earpieces break so they can no longer talk, and so Mark just kind of continues monologuing, and he's basically just monologuing the like theme of Invincible, of like redemption and bettering yourself, and can you come back from like really fucked up decisions. And I really think it's beautiful. I think it's a beautiful end to the story, because like Mark talks about how Thrag could, he just refuses to do it, unlike every other character, which we can now bring up, Stu, what you've been hinting at, Anissa. This might be controversial. I like that she becomes a good guy. I don't like that it happens off screen.
I mean, yeah, it would have been nice if we could see it.
She's diabolical. She's a Viltrumite that's bad enough on her own. She's a genocidal maniac, and she rapes the main character. Obviously, there's no coming back from that, but it's the theme of Invincible that, like, you can better yourself. And I personally believe that is true in real life as well. I do believe no matter the mistake you make, you can better yourself. You have to live with those mistakes, which Anissa does. She feels really bad about it, but like we don't get to see her. She just is better. And then all of the characters, like Mark is just like, yeah, it's cool. And I'm like, that's not like, man. I mean, he's not really cool with it, but it's like, it doesn't sit well with me that it happens off screen. But she does die in the battle to like save Eve. She at least goes out being a hero.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. She has a kid named Marky, and it's Mark. So fucking insane. I'm sorry, I can't.
I hate that.
Yeah.
That Mark just doesn't acknowledge.
I blame Mark though. If I was raped and then they named their son Zandy, I would be like, I can't. I'd be like, I can't interact with that child. Like, I'm sorry.
That's fair.
Like that's fair. It's so insane. That being said, basically he kills Thrag.
It is insane. What makes it a little worse? I'll let you finish there, but I need to add this context. What makes it worse is Mark promises this child, this little kid, like a boy, that he'll show up every other year or so, or every other month, like check in on him, no matter what. Spoiler alert: doesn't. That doesn't.
Does, dude. I think he doesn't until he's like 15. I think he's like a teenager.
Yeah, something like that, where he like first debuts as a hero or something.
Well, because he becomes so. I was gonna get.
He becomes invincible.
He becomes invincible, but basically, they kill Thrag, and then Mark takes over the Viltrumite army empire. That's what he does, and then Mark betters them, which I love. He like, I do miss towards the end here. He like stops wearing the Invincible outfit, and it's a true shame. It's a true shame he's wearing like not drip, but he's like bettering the the empire, and I love the final issue of Invincible, where you get to like see him age and he becomes older, And Eve becomes older, and you find out Eve's actually immortal because when she like dies of old age, she just like respawns younger. And then Tara becomes older, and you see like Mark and Tara have, they have like arguments about her like going out with boys, and Mark is like, you could do so much better, like real shit. And I love it so much. And then, like you've mentioned, Marky becomes invincible on Earth. And honestly, I would love to see that comic book. I know that's kind of stupid, but like he's like teaming up with the Guardians of the Globe, and he's like, yeah, I'm the son of Invincible, and they're all like, oh okay, that's kind of neat, And they tease like Angstrom Levy's child shows up, and Angstrom Levy's like, the son of my dad's nemesis is here, and now I'm gonna fight it. You get like fun little sequel teases. But then Marky starts tweaking because his dad never sees him, and so him and Mark have like a big fight until they like calm down, and Mark apologizes, and they hug, and they make up, and blah blah. And presumably Mark then becomes a father for this child, but
presumably.
Well, I don't know. The story ends in what I think is a beautiful moment where he's like, long ago when he's talking to Eve, he's like, when me and my dad first had that big fight, my dad asked me, what will you have after 500 years? And then Mark laughs. He says everything because all of his family's with him, and it's nice. It's beautiful. I think it's a wonderful way to end the story.
Mm-hmm.
He had some spats with his son, but
I hope they change that. Just the whole.
I don't know. I think for me, I think it works. I think it makes Mark a little more human. Because he also does talk to Marky's like adoptive dad, who's like a chiller, by the way. And he's like, can you watch over him? And the guy's like, oh, I was gonna. This is also like, this is my son. I've raised this guy since he was a baby. And so you're kind of like, I kind of understand Mark not visiting. He should have visited Marky, but I get it, I think it makes Mark more human.
Yeah, I mean, like,
it
does make sense. I'm just saying, I feel like Mark at this point, I feel like he either tries a little harder or he doesn't try at all.
Yeah,
I feel.
He could at least send an email, I guess, but I think it works. In my humble opinion, that's
yeah.
I love
beginning to end.
Beginning to end, we did. Normally we don't. It's been a minute since we've like recapped an entire thing, But hey, that's sometimes what we do here. I love. I think it is one of the best superhero comics. I would give it a 10 out of 10. There, I said it.
Yeah.
I'd give it a 10 out of 10.
Tell you what, it is infinitely better than another superhero series we have read.
Oh, no, we're not talking about that. We're not talking about that.
You didn't get the complaint either. That was your decision. That was all you.
Yeah, we're not talking about that one. Well, this one's actually about superheroes, and it's about redemption and bettering yourself and, superhero stuff, right? Which I guess is also, it's technically what Ward is about, but listen, this is
I'd say 9.5 out of 10.
Yeah.
Personally. Not that there's anything wrong with it. I just don't.
No, that's fair.
I prefer other. There, like Zarin said earlier, there's a lot of grimness in like the last like 50 or so chapters. Like it gets rough, and I think you can ease up a little bit on that. Like the robot stuff, we brushed over it. Like a lot of people die. It's just kind of like
there's a whole revolution, and I don't know. I get that. Listen, a 9.5 I think works. Like I said, I read it my freshman year of high school, which is when I was starting to get into comics. So it was one of the first comics I actually read. So it holds a place in my heart. But Nolan, what about you? What would you give?
I think it's a 10 for me as well.
Is this
like?
Well, go finish, Nolan. Finish.
Nah, nothing more to say.
Okay. Is this the best thing we've read for Cantos?
The best thing? Nah.
All right. I would say the answers are between this and JoJo's Part 7, where the only two things. That's what I was
gonna say. Steel Ball Run. I still like that way more. I don't know.
Okay.
I like cowboy stuff in general, so I'm already biased towards
the cowboy stuff's great.
And then you add JoJo onto it. Yeah, that's a wrap.
I think I like little more, but I like what we are reading currently.
Oh, well,
Even.
we
I have to
have
get on it.
who's even started that? Me, I finished it already. These two haven't even
Yeah, you
started.
psycho.
Okay, I'm not a
Finish
psycho.
it
I'm
2
better. I'm
days after
better.
we.
Okay.
Hey, I've read it before, you
Yeah.
know, so I'll read it again.
We can't say well we could, but I refuse to say what we're reading next. It's always got to be a
No.
surprise, okay? But one
You
day,
gotta look forward to it.
we will get what I do think is the best comic book of all time, and one day, hopefully, these guys will agree with me. That's all I'll say. We will find out what it is if I ever actually get it, because I've
All up
had
to
terrible luck.
chance. It's all up to chance.
It is all up to chance, but with that, one of our longer cantoses yet. Okay. I hope you guys all enjoyed. Goodbye.
Bye.